think that our present will be reflected by documentaries like yourself? Any sense?
It's hard to say. You know, technology is sort of increasing and changing at such a rapid speed. We don't know that people will even be saving emails anymore. At least you know from Iraq that some mother somewhere is pressing print and we have a copy of them and we can hand them around and have the same kind of relationships to letters that we had, say, during the Civil War or the Second World War. But it's really unclear, and we know that everything is accelerating, the change is accelerating, and one hopes that the tail of the technology isn't wagging the dog, meaning the rest of us in the important content of remembering what's going on, what was important to us now, what things look like.
Yeah. It's pretty clear from your films that conflict defines us as a people and a generation. How do you think this war and the war in Afghanistan, the war in Iraq and Afghanistan will define us as a people and a generation?
I think that many, many years from now it's hard to say, and we don't know what other wars might happen, that they'll be known as the petroleum wars. And they wouldn't have started had there not been, particularly in Iraq, you know, huge natural resources. Afghanistan is a kind of tangential thing, a leftover of Cold War politics, but no less important strategically for what we're doing. You know, there's certain elements of wars that are always the same, and they've been true since the Peloponnesian Wars and beyond, you know. I saw bad things, I did bad things, I lost good friends, I was scared, I was bored, I was hot by, I was cold, you know. This happens in every war.
Yeah.
So I think that what we look for when we try to do it well is not so much go for this conflict, but the human drama, and quite often conflict is involved in that. It helps to define us and find out what human beings, and be surprised that they're very much like the people at Valley Forge and the people at the Battle of the Bulge. They're very much like the people at the Peloponnesian Wars.
How is this election defining us, and what is it saying about this chapter of race?
Well, it hasn't said anything. The election isn't over yet, and so I think when it is over, it will be hugely definitive. And so at that point, I think we can begin to make judgments. We just have a sense, like a gigantic tidal wave about to break over our heads, that this is a hugely important thing. We have two very clearly distinct candidates who want to take the country in two very different ways. But we can't really make any judgments, and certainly not a historian who usually wants to wait 25 years to make any judgments before we know what's going on.
When you speak about the subjects that you deal with, to me, it's almost like an actor that gets so deeply into their heart that they take it with them for a while.
I was once accused of by a reporter of being enthusiastic, as if that was a bad thing. If you look up the word enthusiasm, it has a Greek etymology, and it means God in us. And I think what I've loved has been the possibility of working in public television, which has given me complete freedom and being able to make the films I want to make, how I want to make them. So I have no excuses, and that's a wonderful, wonderful feeling. And so it allows you to fully invest yourself into whatever project it is, whether it's World War II or the Civil War or Huey Long or the Shakers, the celibate religious sect, or whatever the subject is, you can fully invest it. And so there is a passion that comes along with that privilege.
Yeah, yeah. How much of your filmmaking process is Ken Burns educating himself while he's educating us?
Oh, it's always that. I mean, I never make a film about something I know. I always make a film about something I don't know. And rather than tell you what I know, that's boring. I would rather share with you our process of discovery.
But for us, it was very touching to see all of the next generation.
Can you talk about your film as it applies, the war film as it applies to the birth of expressed memory? We were talking earlier today about my dad, how he's resistant to tell me about it.
Well, what we found in the World War II thing is that we were asking a lot of very personal questions. Most people didn't want to talk about their experiences in World War II. And the ones that did, you realize that memory isn't some distant thing filled with cobweb. It's on their hard drive. It's accessible right now. And to get at that and to be present at the birth of expressed memory, boy, that's a powerful thing. It's powerful for the filmmakers, but think about the families, think about the people involved. It's cathartic. It sometimes is unsettling. They've spent 60 years sort of saying that the Second World War was something, when they tell jokes about it, all of a sudden they're dealing with horrific death.
What was that?
So I work for the TV Academy, and we like to, when I'm shooting, we like to ask people a similar question. And the one question we've been asking is, one of the questions, more lighthearted questions, is what was your favorite TV show when you were a kid, when you were like 10 years old? What would you be watching?
You know, I remember liking The Man from U.N.C.L.E. There was actually a World War II film called Combat, series called Combat, and another one short-lived called Gallant Men, which I actually like even better than Combat. So a lot of the stuff that I've worked on in the past had some stuff going on in the 60s.
Last question is, when you were a kid, what did you want to be when you grew up?
Well, starting at about age 11, I wanted to be a filmmaker. So I'm living my dream, and this is really an amazing moment.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Good.